You know, we're nearly at the close of our program, but this session is going to be fun. And I'm going to bring up the speakers one at a time. So I'd like to invite Frida Giannini to come up on stage. So Frida, of course, as some of us know, was born in a family of an architect father and a mother who was interested in the history of art. And she went, sit down. And then she went in 1997 even, sorry, Frida, to Fendi, with Fendi's skill at spotting talent. And this was, of course, the place where, in fact, you first met Giambattista Valli, who's going to be your speaking partner this afternoon.
Actually, we didn't meet at Fendi.
Oh, you didn't?
Just left.
Okay, my story is falling apart. But in any case, we all know that what you did was to go on to Gucci, where you became an accessories designer, but that in 2006, after the Tom Ford years and various tryouts, you took over as the creative director of Gucci, where you go from strength to strength. And I think first we're going to see your film that tells us about Frida Giannini's Gucci.
I've had the pleasure of collaborating with UNICEF and especially the programs that we did together. I was very proud to see how the collaboration between Gucci and UNICEF really makes a difference and send out a very strong message with something very pragmatic that you can really touch and I could really see on my first hand. I think that fashion can also translate and transmit something in the heart, to the heart of the people. I think that everything that is related to a right cause and to something that is so close to the heart of the people, I think people will continue to understand and will continue to support us.
So just before Giambattista Valli comes on stage to have a conversation with you, will you just tell us about this video and what it brought to you emotionally and what it has given to the people you're helping?
Well, this video is related to my first visit in Malawi. Actually, I was going this year, but because of my pregnancy, I couldn't fly for Malawi. But it was an incredible experience because for the first time, I could really touch firsthand what we were doing together with UNICEF. Of course, you know, I knew everything about them. I knew everything about the help. We were doing a lot of events, trying to raise more money than possible for the organization. But it's always different when you can have a direct experience there on the field with the people in the hospital, with the teacher, with people that is trying to train, is trying to do everything. And I know, of course, now in the video we just see that we together with UNICEF we helped to raise or around 30 million, but now I think we are around 14 because this is an old video. And I think it's a huge result, it's a huge success, but you know, when you are there, you really feel that it's a drop in the ocean. It's like something that you really have to do more. You really need to improve your efforts every single day, which I think is good for a fashion brand, also like Gucci, because of course, at the first moment, you probably can be confused and say, what does it mean, luxury brand together with, but I think it's worth, because you can create awareness, you can create through the communication of a big brand, like for example the new media, the social media, the internet, or again the communication for the advertising. You can create this kind of awareness and you can make the people closer to this kind of projects, which I think is great.
Well, I think it's wonderful that Gucci and you are doing something for good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So, Giambattista, would you like to come up on stage, because you also have a video to show? So, Giambattista Valli, like Frida, was born and raised in Rome, but he's had a career since then, going to Central St. Martin's as well as being taught in Italy, and then working for Roberto Capucci. I hope I'm not getting anything wrong here. And then you did work at Fendi, even if you missed each other. Is that right?
The story is really funny. You know, she got my desk when I left. And she got all my ID and wallet in my desk.
Identity card, and so I sent to him because I didn't know who he was before me. And so, but unfortunately, he was already in Paris. Fortunately for him, but unfortunately for me, I didn't know where I should send this document.
Yes, well, we know that you left Rome, although I know you come back often. You went first to Emmanuel Ungaro, and you also then set up your own line in 2005. Then later on you did haute couture. You know, the rest is now fashion history. But before we have a conversation about it, can we see your video and see what you...
Of course, there is all the explanation is in the video.
Oh, okay.
By the way.
Then you won't have to say anything.
That's it. I would love. You're gonna see.
Ah, c'è Vidal, lo scrittore americano. Domandiamo anche a lui.
Buonasera, signor Vidal. Possiamo disturbarla 2 minuti?
Mi domandate perché mai uno scrittore americano vive a Roma. Prima di tutto perché piace i romani, che si frega niente se sei vivo o morto. Sono neutrali, come i gatti. Roma è la città dell'illusione. Non a caso qui c'è la chiesa, il governo e il cinema. Tutte cose che producono illusione. Come fai tu, come fai io.
È bellissimo! Vieni Giulietta, spogliati! This is the wind of the Orient. Io sono l'alma rinnovata in Frida.
Ma poi ci andrei.
Intanto eccoci qua tutti e due. Venite a spasso con noi? essere tua moglie. Vorrei divertirmi come una puttana.
Capisci?
Questa signora che rientra a casa costeggiando il muro dell'antico palazzetto patrizio è un'attrice romana, Anna Magnani, che potrebbe essere anche un po' il simbolo della città.
Che so io?
Una Roma vista come lupa e vestale, aristocratica e stracciona, tetra, buffonesca. Potrei continuare fino a domattina.
Ma Federico, va a dormire, va.
Posso farti una domanda?
No, non mi fido, ciao. Buonanotte.
Giambattista, this is the most wonderful evocation of your Roman roots. It's heart-stopping. I want a copy to take home to bed. So, did you think about it a lot? It's a new film that you've made, yes, especially for this occasion.
Yeah.
Did you think a lot about your Roman roots after I asked you to take part with Frida in this discussion?
It was extremely interesting to go back like in my archives and to get everything that it was inspired by Rome. But if you invite me in London or New York or everywhere around, I can make movies.
Well, as we're in Rome,
yeah.
Tell us about the Roman one. Tell us, I mean, were these really experiences of some of them of your childhood? Were they research? Of course, I know some are ancient history. How do you feel that you've put Rome into your work?
You know, the first things, the childhood, did you see the little baby like sitting on the foot of the Pope? That's me. That one was my grandmother, great-mother, grandfather, my father, my mother, whatever, all the family. So you see me starting and going through the vision of Rome. That in a professional way, the vision of Rome, it's all about, for me, like an open sky movie set. Every single corner, the people like sitting in the squares, like walking around. It looks like really always, it's like a Cinecittà, but it's an open sky Cinecittà. So I always was like extremely charmed by this fantasy, this exuberance, this, how can I say, it can go on borderline almost like on vulgarity, but never go on vulgarity because there is always this kind of extravaganza. And,
you miss Rome for many years.
But you know, I'm talking about the Rome that I put it in the movie. So there are the fetish like women's and the fetish like movies and movie directors. So you can see Giulietta di Spirito, you can see this. In the last probably 15 years, there is too much politics and there is too few creativity. Mm-hmm. Creativity, not Frida or many other people here, but you know, in the cultural, in other side and fashion, we're missing a little bit. But you know, I want to remember and I want to push and support Rome like this. You know, in an eternal city like Rome, the last 15 years, what it is, not even a second.
Frida, do you feel like that? After all, we know that although Gucci is based in Florence, and we know you love Florence and you put the museum there, but you did choose to move to Rome back to Rome when you became the design director. So what does Rome mean to you?
Well, of course, to me, Rome is my hometown, so I grew up here. I really feel myself as a Roman. I really feel part of this landscape in a way, because I recognize myself walking in the street. As Giambattista was saying, I really love to be surrounded, as I was saying, by these crazy people, because when you walk in the streets of Rome, you're always surprised, you're always stimulated by seeing what is going to happen, because in a way we are all survivors, because as we were saying before, in Rome there is chaos, there's traffic, it's a messy every day, but there is always something fascinating to me, like about the colors, the light, of course, not only the center and the museum and the ruins, but also certain landscape, like, for example, the countryside and the seaside. So to me, is a place where I can really breathe a fresh air after a very long day and very hard day of work. So to me, it means a lot, because at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I really need to rest. I really need to refresh my mind with very positive values, which are my family, of course, but also my city and my places, my favorite places.
I can't imagine you in a traffic jam in Rome, because I thought you were always on horseback.
No. On the motorcycle, you mean? Yes.
Aren't you crazy about horseback riding?
Yes, of course, I love, honestly, I grew up horse riding. I just keep when I started working, because it's a sport that really needs and deserves a lot of time, and so it's impossible to follow this apart of in the weekend and in summertime when I'm on vacation. Actually, in Rome, again, it's quite difficult to horse riding in the center of Rome, so to me...
Really?
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it is, because there was a beautiful place in the center in Villa Borghese, in this beautiful park, but then was moved, and so today, if you want to horse ride, you have to go outside the city.
Giambattista, I want to ask you something. You went to Vatican school. To those of us who are not Catholics, I don't know what that means really, and I certainly don't know what it means in terms of your work. Does it give you a particular religious vision? Was some of the things that we saw there taken from those years?
I have to tell you, it was only 8 years of my life, so everybody goes there, but actually I went to hell too in many other moments of my life. But anyway, it was like a great, I can say, visual experience, not at all spiritual, that's for sure. And it was visual because, you know, getting to the Vatican, it was getting like, I don't know, getting to the last pharaohs probably, you know? So getting like in a place that it's like so untouched in the rituals. I'm very much tied up with rituals. That's why I do haute couture too. There was, you know, it's a place that it touched your 5 senses, because it's a beautiful place. Every morning you walk through like the Vatican gardens, and then you can smell the incense, and then you can listen like amazing chorus, and then you can see the most extraordinary reds and fuchsia. That's I have all my reds and fuchsia in all my collections by. So it was like a great experience, but you know, it was one of the very, very eclectic experiences that I had in my life. So, you know, I didn't choose for this.
So you went from,
I was 6'5", probably.
So you went from Santo Spirito to St. Martin's in London. That must have been a great change of experiences.
It was great. You know, it was the other side. I love opposite. I always try to, that's probably why I always try to work like in opposite. I always try to, you know, find like an imaginary balance between two opposites, and to try to find like the great harmony of the two things. It's a little bit like, you know, if you see the planimetry of Rome, no? There is this little street, and then after little street, there is an explosion, there is a huge square, and then you go into another little street. So it's like opposites, but it's very beautiful when there is the great rhythm, no?
And what about you, Frida? I feel that, you know, there's something very cool and clean about your work. It's not nearly as decorative, as I understand it, as Giambattista's work. And I was right in saying that your father's an architect, yes? Yeah. Do you feel there's that architectural streak going through you, modern architecture?
Maybe so, I don't know. Again, as Giambattista, I was really a child, like 5, 6 years old when I was in my house with my father designing all the time. Of course, I grew up with this sense of aesthetic sense of architecture. That's why one of my favorite places in Rome is the Eur, is the place where you can find all this rationalist architecture. So I like this kind of landscape, which is not proper Roman landscape, because of course I also love the Baroque at the same time. So, but what I understand from Giambattista Giambattista, and I agree 100%, is this kind of contrast you can live in this city. So you can live with the Baroque church, with these beautiful paintings, with the Caravaggio paintings. You are always surprised every single day, every single minute. As Pierpaolo was saying before, you never stop to discover something new. At the same time, I like this kind of contrast. Hopefully, I would love and I would admire in the future to see even more modern architecture sometimes, because what is missing to me to Rome today probably is some experiment doing something new in architecture.
What about the Maxi? I thought the Maxi was...
That was the perfect example. That is something that could work really well in Rome. Sorry?
I'm not going to ask for translation, just in case. Giambattista, I want to ask you a specific question, although it's for both of you, really. You know, it's interesting that Silvia Venturini Fendi has been working so hard to get Alta Moda, Alta Roma back into the schedule. You, quite quietly, built up a couture business. You know, you were in Paris working for... yes, for Emmanuel Ungaro. Yeah. I mean, you worked actually with him, did you not?
I'm the only one that worked with him. Well, you always put me, you, all the journalists, they always put me like in the list of the one afters, but I was the one with. I mean, I left it before him.
So you worked with Emmanuel Ungaro, who had the whole thing that he had worked down with couture. He had worked with Balenciaga, and so you are actually part of a chain of haute couture, and you decided to do haute couture, but you didn't decide to come back to Rome to show it.
Because I have to tell you, first of all, I was so lucky to have an extremely unique experience. I'm one of the very, very few that he worked, for example, at the time when I first arrived at Ungaro, in the atelier, there were still people that they used to work with Monsieur Ungaro at Cristobal Balenciaga. So they were like amazing, like people with like this ritual and tradition that they gave it to me. You know, it became my knowledge, my culture, and it was so generous, all of this. I mean, I started with Roberto Capucci, and you know, I learned a lot about atelier at Fendi. They were the most amazing atelier, experimental atelier for all the furs and everything. So, you know, I really grew up with this knowledge, but the knowledge of haute couture, it's a deeply, how can I say, for me it was naturally Paris. I don't know, there is an art, there is a, I think that this art, it's a little bit like, in Italy, it's a little bit like, how can I say, it's a little bit treated as a joke for women's, and it's not treated as an art. When I started to do my first haute couture show, it was because I wanted really to share this experience and to give it the possibility to younger one to get the experience that I got it in touch. So I grew up my atelier with the same sensibility that I tasted in the previous experience. And it was, for me, it was naturally, it was France, because there is, when I started, you remember when I did the first fashion show, some journalists, they were laughing because I was saying that we put, I mean, it would be fantastic to put under protection all these ateliers because they are disappearing. And I think this art, these arts with S. You know, in Paris I used to live in front of these arts et métiers that I think is the most beautiful idea of respect for all these arts and métiers that we are all missing, we are all losing. And so I say, I mean, culturally, I have really to push this side. It's not for, how can I say, it's not for a lucrous point of view. It's not for the money, it's not for this. I mean, you spend more money to do it. But it was just to really support this DNA of fashion.
Frida, it's very fashionable now to produce a couture collection. Are we going to see Gucci couture?
Not really soon, honestly, because, you know, I understand, and I'm sure that you really need a great knowledge about this. So it's not something that you can invent tomorrow because I want to do a couture. Of course, as a designer, it could be a dream for me. It could be a next challenge after accessories, after ready-to-wear, doing something else. But I think I should structure and organize something like an atelier with premiere, with tailor, so it's not something that you can do it like in 5 minutes. So at this moment, we are just doing this premiere line, which is just a service for our ambassadors for cinema, but it's not a commercial line, so it's something that we don't sell to our clients. Then we'll see in the future, but honestly, you know, Gucci was born as a pret-a-porter brand, so I don't really see a couture line. I think that everyone deserves his proper space, so I don't see Gucci doing couture because we want to do couture.
And I'd like to have a little argument here, because Gucci was born as a leather line, as shoes and bags, and now you do a beautiful clothing line. Why shouldn't you take one step ahead? You're doing it for the red carpet. Why can't you do it for people throughout the world who are really interested in that high level?
Because, yes, of course, Gucci was born for accessory, as accessory the brand, but is doing ready-to-wear since 25, 30 years. So we have factories, we have hands that are doing this. We don't have premiere, we don't have the hands, the proper hands. So we should probably train someone, we should build an atelier, which is something that is possible to do, but not in...
Not should, but could.
Yeah.
You
Why
could.
not? Why not?
Why not, exactly. I want to thank you two for coming up on stage, because we know that the blood of Roman fashion is running through both your veins, and it has been wonderful to end our conference hearing about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frida. Thank you.
Lots of love. Be careful going down the stairs.
Thank you.